So, but besides jingle bells, the bell also reminds me of my favorite scene in any movie. And which one is it? It's A Wonderful Life. Thank you. George Bailey, our main character, has been getting some assistance from the angel second class, Clarence, and has a terrible experience of seeing what it would be like if he'd never been born. And it's such a terrible experience that he can't wait to get back to his life, even though he knows it almost certainly means going to prison. So he runs back home and he says, "Merry Christmas, drugstore! Merry Christmas, you savings and loan! Merry Christmas, Yucatan!" Well, no, there wasn't a Yucatan there. That's over. That's here. And he runs into his house and he embraces his wife and he embraces his children, tears in his eyes. And just then at the door are all of these friends. Friends known and perhaps sometimes unknown to him. Sometimes those are the best friends at all. Friends that he's made little investments in of kindness, of cheerfulness, of giving a loan or a little bit of help, and they're all there to give him a return on his investment. He notices a little book on the table. It's Tom Sawyer, and it belonged to Clarence, the angel. He opens it up, and he reads a note from Clarence, paraphrasing the great Mark Twain, that says, "Remember, no man is a failure who has friends." Just then that bell on the tree rings, and his little girl says, "Teacher always says, every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings." And in that moment, the reason why it's my favorite scene, and I cry a little bit every time, it's this dual demonstration of divine friendship. Divine friendship. The first expression, the pragmatic one, the practical one. Those real, alive, living people that show up for you as your friends when you need them. I've learned something in life, and what I've learned is that you don't choose your friends. Your friends choose you. You don't know who they're going to be. They're the ones that choose you, and it's up to us to receive what they have. And think about some of the people you know, whether through pure randomness or the greatest synchronicity that ever was. How cool that it is that we're friends here together, sharing this time, for those people who've shown up in our lives. So there's that divine demonstration, and then there's the supernatural one. The support of your angels, your guardians, your spirits. And if you don't believe in that kind of thing, let's just call it the demonstration of the grace of God. The demonstration of God's forgiveness, of God's peace, of an awareness that there is something out there that, if anything, at least knows better than we know about ourselves, that provides and presents itself in the most opportune moments, that defeats us with its love and its goodness. That to me is the beauty of that scene. Do you have friends? Yes, I have friends. There's two of my friends right there. Hey, Merry Christmas! To make sure that my sermon wasn't a failure today, I wanted to include a couple friends in the sharing today. And it's Christmas, and they're great friends to me and to this church. And so we're going to hear a little bit from Nicole and Donna, and we're going to begin. So please welcome Nicole Von Antingen, everybody.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
It's kind of like I feel like I hit the jackpot today, because two of my favorite things in the entire world are Christmas and Sundays. And so it's kind of cool that they're all smashed together today. But like Reverend Josh said, all month we've been talking about It's a Wonderful Life. And one of the inspirations for this morning is that line that says, "Remember, no man is a failure who has friends." But today we also celebrate the birth of Jesus and the recognition of that Christ light within us. And Jesus just happened to have been one of the most amazing
Hey, Jesus is here.
Hello. Amen. Yeah. That's Christmas spirit. Okay. One of the most incredible teachers that I think has ever walked this planet. And one of the things that he was most, that he taught so well was unconditional love and forgiveness. And I think that these are the two pillars of a true good friendship: unconditional love and forgiveness. And the way that this man, Jesus, was able to look at people, as far as I know from the stories that I've read, was just incredible. It was like he was able to see all of their struggles and all of their sadness, and yet cut straight through it and have absolute faith that they are a child of God, that they are born of that Christ light. And that recognition, that friendship, that seeing people in that light brought about instantaneous, miraculous healing. And so when I think about these things that he did and that he taught about unconditional love and friendship, forgiveness, I think about my best friend, Denise. Denise and I met when I was 16 and she was 23. I just started dating her younger brother, and she was amazing. She had this simple, peaceful contentment about her that I was so drawn to. And we became friends almost immediately, and we've been best friends ever since. And one of the greatest gifts that I was given this season was to be able to come up here and share my friendship about her with you all, because it made me reflect on the realization that there has never been a time when Denise hasn't seen me for who I really am. And there's never been a time when I haven't been able to hold her in that light. And I think, what a great gift this is, how powerful that is. Dr. Ernest Holmes, the founder of the Science of Mind philosophy that we study here, he said, a man might have many shortcomings, but if he loves greatly, much will be forgiven. He says we're all just looking and longing for genuine interest, for someone to tell us that we're all right. And I absolutely agree. And I think that each of us in our own way has our Denise or our Jesus, that person who sees us and holds us in that light of wholeness, who sees who we really are, even when we're having our down times. And for many of us, it's the people in this very room, the people who we're sitting next to. I know it is for me. I see many friends out here. And so what I want to do is I just want to remind us, I want to invite us to take the spirit of this morning, the spirit of that Christ light within each of us, the spirit of friendship, and just hold that in our hearts and remember that no man or woman who has friends is a failure, and that we have each other. And we have a deep, deep friendship here. And so it brings my heart tremendous joy and satisfaction to be here in the midst of beauty and love and friendship. And I wish you all a very Merry Christmas. And may we all recognize the light of Christ within ourselves and our neighbors today and always.
Thank you, Nicole. Next, we're going to hear from someone who chose me as their friend 20 years ago, and I couldn't have a better friend. Her name is Donna Baranye. Let's welcome her.
Who knew 20 years ago? Isn't that awesome? It's true. I think sometimes our friends choose us, so I'm grateful for your friendship as well. It's a Wonderful Life. That is a movie that I have grown to really, really feel called to have a deep respect for that film. The first time I saw it, I was actually in my 30s, believe it or not, and a friend of mine had found out I'd never heard the movie or even heard of the movie, so she made sure we had movie night before Christmas, so we got to sit down and watch it. But more so, a few weeks ago here in our sanctuary, I watched it with Joan Cosner, and it had an even deeper impact on me that evening. And that evening, I did feel that sense of connection and to to what the story was talking about in It's a Wonderful Life. And I remember at the end of the movie, Joan and I were talking through my tears, and she had asked, I wonder if my life has an impact in the world, and I've asked that myself, and I think many of us have. And what that story, that George Bailey story teaches us is that we all make a difference, that we have that impact in our own world, and that it's that Christ light, that when we allow that to come through us, really have that opportunity to shine brightly. And the person I chose to share about this morning is someone who doesn't attend our church, but I work with her every day. Her name is Jenny. She is our bereavement assistant, but she started out as a very shy young intern who was on a different path, and through her time working in hospice, she's bilingual, so she worked with our Spanish-speaking patients in the field as a companion and in other areas within our agency. I got to see and watch her grow and find her voice. She's an immigrant from El Salvador, so whatever she needs for school, she must pay for. She's not eligible for certain grants. And what I've seen her do is move through getting a bachelor's, an associate's, and now she's in a master's program, all with a smile on her face. She truly is taking her voice, finding it, and using that Christ light that's within her. And she's a joy to work with. She's become a dear friend of mine. She reflects back to me sometimes in those moments of stress, humor, and forgiveness. And I truly feel that she's a gift to me and to the world. And it's been such a joy to watch her grow and evolve, and to just realize what the spirit of Christmas is in this time is of joy, is of love, is of forgiveness. And it's that opportunity to celebrate and to be in love with life. So I look forward to this holiday season. I look forward to each and every one of you. I chose Jenny, but I could, as Nicole shared earlier, I could have shared almost any of you who become near and dear to my hearts as well, and I'm grateful to call many of you friends as well. So have a wonderful Christmas. Remember the spirit of Christmas, which is love, which is joy, acceptance, and understanding. And thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Thanks again, Nicole. I love Christmas, and it actually makes me laugh when people talk about the war on Christmas, like it's this pure thing that needs to be protected. What I love about Christmas is that for most of us, it includes traditions from all over. It's not just an honoring and remembering of the birth of Christ. It's also a time, even in our family, where we practice Hanukkah as well. It involves traditions of nature worship, thus the tree. It involves an honoring of sacred pagan traditions of honoring the light even in the darkest time of the year. It involves what has always been my favorite thing since I was a kid, the myths of Santa Claus and of present giving. And if there was one area where I would like to see us improve, is I do wish that we included a little bit more of the Christ spirit in our gift giving. You know, I think we've heard that question, what would Jesus do? But I like the question, what would Jesus give? You know, if Jesus was going to give you a gift for Christmas, what would it be? And since I'm a minister and therefore I have a direct line with Jesus, I decided to ask him, Jesus, what you would give? And he said, first, let them know the importance of financially supporting the church and da-da-da-da. But then after that, there are three gifts that I would want to share with people. And so we have these gifts here, symbolic gifts. And is there someone want to help me open one of these? I'm going to pick you for the next two, you two, because this one has something in there. Okay, this is the first gift. Okay. Judy, thank you for what's in there. Well, close. It's a bottle of Prosecco, so it's like champagne, right? So let's see if we can get some orange juice and see how far we can spread this out, right? But it is symbolic of the Spirit. That is the first gift, and you can take this. Steve looks like he could use a drink. It's symbolic of the Spirit, and that is the first gift that the Christ would offer us is the Spirit. That was the centerpiece of Jesus' ministry. At one point, the wisest man in the land, Nicodemus, questions Jesus. He says, Jesus, how do I get into this kingdom of heaven that you're talking about? And Jesus says, you must be reborn. And Nicodemus says, what are you talking about? What am I supposed to do, crawl back into my mother's womb? What do you mean, be reborn? And Jesus responds to him, you must be reborn of the Spirit. You must be reborn of the Spirit. For Jesus, the spiritual reality is more important than the temporal, physical reality. And we can't get a sense of eternal life or eternal givingness until we are able to create an identity in spirit. Jesus' disciples, one time, they ask him, Master, when will the kingdom of heaven come? And Jesus kind of shakes his head, and he says, the kingdom won't come if you're looking for it, nor will it come if you're waiting for it, because the kingdom of heaven is within you. And that is the gift of spirit. It is an inner life that as we continue to cultivate, we begin to find an eternal life with those we love. Now, the gifts of Christ are easy to give, and they're perhaps even easy to receive, but they're hard as hell to hold on to. They're hard to hold on to, and it's hard to hold on to the gift of spirit because we believe so strongly in the flesh. Not that the flesh isn't beautiful and animated by spirit, but when we believe in the flesh without the spirit, our lives become temporary. They lose meaning. They lose spirit. They lose a sense of givingness. The second gift that Christ would have us receive today. All right, Kimberly, come and get this one. I didn't think you liked champagne, so I didn't want you to open the first one. What's in there? I know, it's kind of gross, isn't it? It's bread. It's bread. And what does the bread symbolize? It is the gift of enough. The gift of enough. You can take that with you. Dean will have it with some butter with you after service. The Christ wants us to know that we're enough. He wants you to know that there is enough love, there's enough food, there's enough money, there's enough appreciation, there's enough shelter, there's enough water, there's enough friendship, there's enough caring, there's enough time, there is enough, and you are enough. Always. Always. The gift of Spirit, the gift of Christ are easy to receive, but they are hard to hold on to because we let go of the gift of enough and we embrace an understanding of lack. And that Christ would tell us that the only reason we lack is because we believe in lack, because we refuse to share with our brothers and our sisters, because we fall into belief that we do not have enough. Jesus wasn't a socialist. He was the greatest capitalist there ever was because he believed in the capital of the truth. And when we receive the truth of who we are, that truth sets us free. When we let go of a belief in lack, there is enough for us. And Jesus would tell his disciples to try and be as good as the flowers who do not toil, and try to be as wise as the birds who do not worry. And he would ask his disciples, which of you through worry can add an hour to his life? Stop wasting your time in lack and embrace that you are enough always, always. A final gift from Christ to you. Come on, you guys, it's a dual gift. Come on up. They're chocolate. Christ wants us to have lots of chocolate. I couldn't find candy hearts, but they're kisses. They're representative of love. Will you help pass those out? You can keep a couple for yourself, of course. But that is the third gift of the Christ to us, is the gift of love, the greatest gift of all. Love for the Christ is how not only we honor God, but how we bring God to life. One time, Jesus was teaching outside of a temple, and some Orthodox folks started arguing with him. What are you doing teaching outside of the temple? And Jesus pointed at the temple, and you know what he said? He said, because I was there, he said, he said, one day that temple will turn to dust. It will no longer be. But if you want a temple that lasts forever, the temple is built through loving one another. That is how we honor the sacred. That is how we build a sanctuary for God, through loving one another. But I tell you, the gifts of Christ are easy to receive, but they are what? Hard to hold on to, because it is so easy to hold a grudge. It is so easy to not forgive. It is so easy to blame. It is so easy to not take responsibility. It is so easy to deny our own power and stay and revel in our own anger or shame or disappointment. But it is so hard to love, because the love that Jesus teaches us is not a warm and fuzzy love. It is a strong love. It is a graceful love. It is a challenging love. One of the most profound things that Jesus ever said, he said, nothing anyone can ever do to you will defile you. Nothing anyone can ever do to you can defile you. Only what comes from you can defile you. It's a reminder that as long as we live from love and act from love, we are honoring the kingdom from which we came from, return to, and hopefully can create a little bit here on earth. I love that Christmas is about honoring the birth of Christ. But to be honest with you, I do not dwell on the idea that Christ was born 2,000 years ago. The Christ to me is something that is eternally being birthed. Eternally being birthed in the hearts of men and women who open themselves to have a rebirth in love, a rebirth in a sense of enough, a rebirth in spirit. The Christ is always being born primordially, not just Christmas time, but every time we are willing to receive that gift. So please receive the gift of goodwill, of love, of charity, and of peace, and share it with everyone around you. Merry Christmas.